Welcome to the infamous edition of the Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation done through creative storytelling of history's most infamous people. Now, let's meet our guest. Welcome to the podcast. Let's start at the absolute beginning, where the public narrative hasn't yet distorted who you were. When and where were you born, and what was your given name?
I was born on April 15th, 1952 in Hamilton, Ohio, and my given name was Donald Harvey.
What was your hometown and home life like as a child?
Shortly after I was born, my family moved to Boonville, Kentucky, which is a tiny Appalachian town. My parents were struggling tobacco farmers, and we were heavily involved in the local Baptist church. Home life wasn't easy. My parents had quite an abusive relationship with each other, and being raised on a farm wasn't my idea of a happy setting. I always preferred the idea of the city, especially because acting effeminate and realizing I was gay did not make for an ideal fit in a very conservative, traditional Eastern Kentucky community.
Was there a story behind your name, or a nickname that stuck with you?
Oh, the nickname that defined the rest of my life was the Angel of Death. The media slapped that on me later on because I was a hospital worker who quietly ended the lives of patients under my care.
What were you like as a child, and how many years of schooling did you actually attend?
As a child, I kept a lot of heavy secrets to myself. I actually dropped out of school in the 9th grade, though I did end up getting a correspondence school diploma and my GED a bit later in 1968.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
It was taking a job as an orderly at Marymount Hospital in London, Kentucky when I was only 18 years old. It felt like a normal, mundane way to earn a living, but stepping into that medical environment changed the trajectory of my entire life.
Let's talk about your early run-ins with the law. Before the world knew your name for your most infamous actions, what was your very first arrest or interaction with law enforcement? And what were the consequences?
My very first official arrest happened in March 1971, when I was 19. I was picked up under suspicion of burglary in my apartment building. Interestingly enough, the police actually wanted to question me about the occult. During that interrogation, I actually confessed to the officers that I had killed 15 people at Marymount Hospital. But the wild part is, absolutely no one believed me at the time. They let it go, and shortly after that, I enlisted in the United States Air Force.
At what moment did you realize your name would never be forgotten?
That moment came in the summer of 1987. I was working at Drake Memorial Hospital in Cincinnati, and a medical examiner performing an autopsy on a patient named John Powell smelled the distinct scent of almonds, which meant cyanide. Once the investigators connected the dots to me and searched my apartment, they found a cache of cyanide, arsenic, and a detailed diary of my killings. The media frenzy broke nationally, and suddenly I was the lead story everywhere.
Did fame make you more dangerous, or did it simply expose who you already were?
The notoriety just exposed the reality of what I had been doing completely under the radar for nearly 2 decades. I didn't need the fame to escalate. I had already been quietly using everything from arsenic and cyanide to suffocation and turning off ventilators in multiple hospitals across Kentucky and Ohio. The public just finally saw the scale of it.
Who do you believe betrayed you first? A person, society, or your own instincts?
I'd say it was my own internal mistakes mixed with a slip-up in my methods. I got comfortable because the hospital systems had failed to notice the spike in deaths for 17 years. But using cyanide on a patient whose doctor insisted on an autopsy was the mistake that undid me.
What was your most unique habit or a random fact about you that would surprise people?
People might be surprised to learn that my poisoning habits weren't strictly confined to patients in hospital beds. If I suspected someone in my personal life of crossing me, I used the exact same methods. When I thought my roommate was being unfaithful, I systematically slipped small doses of arsenic into his food on Sundays just to make him too sick to leave the apartment on Mondays. I even poisoned a couple of my neighbors with arsenic and hepatitis serum because of personal grievances.
What did the public never understand about the pressure you were under at the time?
During my confessions in the trial, I tried to make people understand the sheer strain of watching people linger in agony. I spent 12 hours detailing everything to prosecutors because, in a warped way, I remembered every single person, date, and method perfectly.
Did you have any known rivalries that defined your career?
My main adversaries ended up being the prosecutors and investigators in Hamilton County, like the assistant prosecutors who thoroughly dismantled my claims and called my mercy narrative total bull.
What personal battles were you fighting privately while the world was watching?
Privately, I had spent years dealing with deep mental health struggles. Early on, during my brief time in the Air Force, I had 2 nervous breakdowns and attempted suicide, which eventually led to my medical discharge. I carried a lot of darkness and depression long before I ever stood in front of a judge.
When the law finally closed in, how exactly were you brought to justice? Walk me through the final arrest, the charges that ultimately stuck, and the legal outcome of your trials.
After the cyanide was found in 1987, I was arrested. To avoid the death penalty, I chose to plead guilty. In Ohio, I pleaded guilty to 28 counts of aggravated murder, alongside counts of attempted murder and felonious assault. Then I was turned over to Kentucky, where I pleaded guilty to 8 more murders and 1 count of manslaughter. The ultimate legal outcome was a staggering sentence of 28 consecutive life terms.
What is the biggest misconception people have about your life?
The biggest misconception is that I was purely a compassionate, quote-unquote, killer of mercy who only wanted to ease suffering. While I constantly claimed that I was putting terminally ill people out of their misery, the truth that came out was much darker. In regular basis, I killed simply out of anger, petty annoyance, or because a patient irritated me or threw feces at me.
What would surprise people most about your ordinary human side?
To my coworkers and neighbors for years, I seemed completely ordinary, helpful, and soft-spoken. I kept a meticulous domestic routine, and I even delayed killing one victim, Claiborne Kendrick, because his wife was going on vacation and I didn't want to ruin her trip. It shows how compartmentalized my mind truly was.
When, where, and how did you pass away?
I passed away on March 30th, 2017, at the age of 64. I was serving my time at the Toledo Correctional Institution in Ohio when I was found severely beaten in my cell. I died 2 days later from massive head trauma and skull fractures.
Was your downfall caused more by your own flaws or by the world changing around you?
It was entirely my own flaws and the fact that forensic science and hospital oversight finally caught up with me. The world inside hospitals became much stricter with autopsies and toxic substance controls, meaning I couldn't hide in the shadows forever.
Calvin, do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
I just think it's remarkable how easy it was to fool everyone for so long just by being quiet and wearing a uniform. People trust the institutions meant to care for them, and I was proof of how easily that trust can be exploited when no one is paying close attention.
And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, do better with the life you have been given and choose to do good in this life. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.